Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to move a motion for a resolution of Parliament to borrow up to units of account 91,700,000, an equivalent of United States dollars 121,961,000 from the African Development Fund for the construction of the South Sudan Uganda Power Interconnection Project. I beg to move.
The motion seconded.
Under Rule 215 of our Rules of Procedure, to present a minority report on the resolution of Parliament to borrow up to UA 91,700,000 equivalent to US dollar 121,961,000 from African Development Fund for the construction of South Sudan Uganda Power Interconnection Project. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, we are cognizant of the fact that this specific project is to enhance electricity supply and reliability and affordability by integrating South Sudan into East African Power Pool, EAPP, to address electricity deficit in South Sudan. Even when our government has failed to connect many parts of the country to the national grid. Our colleagues, our reports from Uganda National Bureau of Statistics 2024 show that the national electricity connection rate in Uganda is still rotating around 25.3% to the national grid, with significant differences between urban, that is 49%, and rural, that's 9.1% areas. And with only about 15% enjoying reliable electricity, including rural residents who are disproportionately affected. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, while the committee was scrutinizing this particular request, we disagreed on two crucial issues for the whole House's attention, and I hereby highlight them. Area of dissent. We dissented with the majority of the committee on fundamental matters. 1. Missing memorandum of understanding, power purchasing agreement and contract between Uganda and the rest of the neighbors, including South Sudan in question. 2. Inadequate information on the project and the power capacity. Right Honorable Speaker, I hereby explain as follows. 1. Missing memorandum of understanding, power purchasing agreement and contract between Uganda and the rest of its neighbors, including South Sudan in question. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, we acknowledge that the regional power trade is advancing rapidly after exports to our neighbors of Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, Democratic Republic of Congo, and lately to South Sudan. However, Ugandans have not had a chance to know the memorandum that governs this exportation. The contract terms and obligations governing the export are still a public secret from the Parliament for its interrogation and further inquiries. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, only 25.3% of Ugandans connected to the national grid and only 15% enjoying reliable electricity. Rumors have it that where we export or sell our power, importers enjoy a unit price cheaper compared to us exporters. Right Honorable Speaker, this is a disservice to Ugandans. Right Honorable Speaker, and this has made many Ugandans resort to cheaper means like use of solar, given its negative consequences. Other factors remain constant. With places like Karangala, a unit is going above Uganda shillings 1,500 per unit. This government owes an explanation as to why electricity is still costly to us Ugandans compared to our neighbors where we do export electricity. Right Honorable Speaker, point number 2 of dissent is inadequate information on the project and the power capacity. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, analyzing the proposed intervention like a 400 kV double circuit transmission line approximately 299 kilometers with a power transfer capacity to up to 1000 MV. One question at hand is, what is the installation capacity and available megawatts that our country has before dreaming of export? Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the gap between installed generation capacity and available power is not clear because factors like low hydropower output during droughts, high transmission and distribution losses, and low access rate dilute the impact of increased capacity, as lamented by the Minister of Energy. Reports on installed capacity reaching 2048 megawatts are insignificant, with persistent challenges of reliance on hydroelectric power, which is affected by water levels and low grid expansion. Additionally, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, the statement from the Managing Director of Uganda Electricity Distribution Company Limited that portrays that power demand has increased to 10% per annum in the country and is enough to fast-track power distribution and extension to Ugandans than lack of power, than borrowing power for export. Right Honorable Speaker. We here to recommend as follows. We recommend that this House, in the spirit of minimizing the reducing loan appetite for Ugandans, that is seeing almost above 50% of the national budget tied to debt management, not even service, in a spirit that our debt to GDP has increased nearly to 52%, we request this Parliament to stand over on this loan for the following reasons, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues. 1, the Attorney General to lay before this House the memorandum and the contract terms, probably explain contract obligations within the and contract obligation that regulate the export of power to our neighbors. This embeds the selling price of a unit of power to our neighbors. 2, Parliament resolves to reconsider this proposal to instead look for cheap credit to extend power to Ugandans as opposed to heavy borrowing for export. Yet many Ugandans are not yet connected to the national grid. Right Honorable Speaker. We hereby conclude as follows. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, we request that for the sake of reducing the risks and the fear of increasing the debt stock for the country, you consider and overwhelmingly support this minority report to stand over on this loan so that we fast track electricity for distribution and connecting of Ugandans than thinking of exportation with relative disadvantages and secrecy within the memorandum of understanding that is not availed in here. I beg to submit.
Speaker, I also want to be categorically clear on this point. We supply power to other countries, and at the rate they are paying power is extremely lower than how we Ugandans who supply power to these countries are paying. So something should be done in order to normalize these rates so that we who are the suppliers of these powers should also benefit at least much lower than what they are getting from us. And secondly, there are many areas in Uganda where power has not been supplied. So borrowing such loans in order to supply power to those areas, to nearby countries, we should first consider supplying power to our people so that the supplement should be the one which should be given to those countries, so that our people will also benefit from the power that is available.
Thank you.
I beg to submit.
Much, Mr. Speaker. I will just continue from where he stopped by appreciating the chairman for the report and also for the government to think of extending power to our neighboring country. And also thank the government for extending power to Kenya, Rwanda, our neighbors. I would like to use this chance to be explained, and I think it will even explain more to the public that is listening to this. Because many Ugandans will put a question like we are putting, that why export when we can't get in the country? I might be understanding why, but may we use this chance for Honorable Kasai to explain to us why we have a lot of power to supply. What is happening to the distribution in this country? We really need that distribution to cover a big area. What is it that is stopping us? If it is to borrow, why don't we also borrow for distribution so that our areas which are in darkness can get power? We can borrow. We are here, we shall pass we are going to pass this one. But may you explain to this country, use this chance, why we still have, like some of us are going to have problems in getting votes. Yes, we shall get, but with many questions. People are asking, why don't you give this power? We are not having power here and there. And then we explain, and then we go to the ministry, then they promise, then they do it. What is it? Now when they see this loan, because people read, social media, get out. You are going to give power to Sudan. But here we are. And also this load shedding. We have enough. Why don't we control the load shedding? It is too much. People are losing business because of power. People are losing gadgets in the house because power comes. What is it? Can we get...
Thank you, Honorable.
Can we get explanation? Honorable Speaker, I would like to be explained sincerely, and I think the public will also benefit on this. Thank you so much.
Honorable Bigaros.
Yeah, thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. In the same vein, I want to congratulate the committee for such a well-thought idea to give power to my neighbors in Sudan. Historically, I'm called Sudanese group of people, but the only embarrassing thing, very embarrassing, you forget about yourself, you prefer a neighbor. Obongi does not have a single electric pole. Terego, that hosts very many refugees. And where Honorable Minister Kasai gets money specifically to refugee hosting, they have become adamant. The other day, my people didn't know what to do. They were now asking for power directly from the president. What is this stopping us from first serving ourselves and then we give the excess to the neighbors? Two, the most crucial thing here, I sit on the Committee of Natural Resources. As power travels a long distance, there's a lot of leakage. Why don't you break this power within West Nile that is really crying? Last time when Honorable Minister for Energy was in West Nile, she was booed and made to sit embarrassed before the president. I think this is the only language Minister of Energy understands. We have failed to explain ourselves to the local people of West Nile. Arua has a lot of potential for business. The refugees have, NGOs have established welding machines, areas for promoting youth, But they cannot. The ministry has adamantly refused to step down power. They can come and say, let's transport power now to Sudan. As if there are no human beings in West Nile. You have turned us into animals. We don't need power. Because we are not part of the national park. We need clear explanation before we can allow this loan to proceed to Sudan, or else we get it. Let's first sort West Nile, then we can now, because proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Jonathan Odur.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I associate myself with the comments and concerns and the sentiments of the members of this House. But before I proceed to make comment, I want to compliment the committee. Having looked at Table 1 and Table 2, Table 1 is about the compliance. Except for the counterpart funding, which I think has a score less by 3 points. This loan scores almost 100% on our own requirements. And I'm raising this, Mr. Speaker, sir, because I'm a very strict enforcer of our own rules of procedure. And I feel that documents and reports that come from our committees must honor our own rules of procedure. So when I look at this report, it's almost 100%. The second is on Table 2, which is about the performance of loans. I invite members to look at some of the projects that we have borrowed but remain undisbursed. I think some of the concerns that we are raising here, for example, the electricity scale-up access project is just 80%. I mean, it's 20%, 80% remain undisbursed. There's a transmission line from Masaka to Mbarara, almost 100%. The loan is just lying there. I think 2 loans. And then power supply to industrial areas. The ministry should explain to us why they would come to us to borrow and raise the appetite of Ugandans that we are going to connect them to the grid, and in the end, some of these monies remain, and yet we have to pay a lot of cost. I also want to question, if you are going to take this power from Karumba through Acholi and West Nile, and the 2 communities remain in darkness, especially West Nile that has remained for a very long time. And yet when you look at the National Development Plan of the 1980 to 1985, the one of UPC, there was already a plan in place to connect the entire West Nile. By the time the NRM government took grabbed power, that plan was already there. 40 years up to today, West Nile is still crying for just connection to the grid, and their power is unreliable. So I want to implore the government that do not allow your own citizens who are going to shoulder the burden of this loan to be crying for power, and then you want to just, if I may use the words of my brother Rugumayo, that you want to be a big man of the region. There is no pride in being a big man presiding over other countries when your own country does not have a power supply. So that narrative, I depart from it, and I think we shouldn't just be doing things because we want to position Uganda as the big man of the region when we cannot supply our own. Lastly, the issue raised in the minority report of the power purchase agreement. Mr. Speaker, I implore you to prevail over the ministry to provide this information to the House. We have entered so many bad agreements, and then in the end, Parliament is blamed. We ought to be availed this document. At least there are mechanisms I know within this House. If the document cannot be accessed by everyone, but at least within the committee, and maybe a group of members can review, including your office, Mr. Speaker, sir, so that we avoid suspicion, we avoid blame game, and even we save this country potential hazard that may arise out of a bad contract. We have bad people all over the world who are moving, trapping countries, setting them up, and after 2-3 years, we come here, we have to terminate and then compensate. So I would implore that this issue of the power purchase agreement should not be swept under the carpet. We have to get an explanation from the government. Otherwise, in this loan, I think I commend the compliance level of the documents supplied by the government to the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Honourable Minister, yes, just we need responses to these issues because you have a run of 2015, which was supposed to end by 2020. You've not yet completed. You have, no, Honourable, please, take your seat. You have a run of 2020, which was supposed to end in 2024. The performance is 0.33%, not even 1%. You have a run of which was supposed to end in 2023, and your performance is even worse, 0.32%. Okay? You have one which was supposed to end in 2024. The performance is at 0%. And you want us to give you more money. What would be the basis? Number two, where is the power purchase agreement between you and South Sudan? Why didn't the committee receive it? I was just trying to summarize what colleagues raised here. If you can satisfy them.
Right, Honorable Speaker. I'll start by addressing a justification for the loan, then I'll answer those questions. One, we're a signatory to the East African Power Pool, where we agreed to share electrons, and the electrons will not be flowing one direction. We are actually in the East African Power Pool. We are trading in power. It is not always that Uganda will have excess power. For example, occasionally we actually import electricity to kickstart our systems from Kenya. And this one is supposed to enhance the flow of electrons across the East African region. And the reason why we are doing this, in case we fall short of electricity, we should be able to import electricity. Within the East African region, you find Ethiopia is actually having more electricity than us. And in the case of shortages, like it happened recently in Southern Africa, where the dam actually went and they produced about 10% of their electricity, we should be able to bring in electricity. That is the major reason for actually saying that we must trade in East Africa to avoid shortages across the East African states. Number two, the report clearly says that we have excess available electricity. Yes, we are producing 256 megawatts now, but we are using only 900. It means we have some electricity that we can sell. And this selling of electricity not only brings in foreign currency to our country, but it also contributes to reducing the power tariffs which you are talking about. Because if you are producing electricity and you are not selling, the tariffs is shared, the cost of production of electricity is shared among the few consumers. But if we can extend the power, it contributes to reduction of the tariffs. For example, recently we had a 14% reduction of the tariffs in Uganda by only removing umeme. And would want to continuously reduce the power tariffs by selling out whatever we produce. So it has got a fact of reducing the tariffs instead of raising the tariffs.
Honourable Minister, the members have not had a problem with that, if I listen to their submission. Their problem was, why don't you sell that power to Ugandans who have no connection? Why don't you connect to Ugandans? You sell that power to Ugandans who are dying for it, instead of you connecting another country and you sell it to others? That's a question. I think if you could answer that line, it would make it easier for them.
I will add. Let me answer that one. Why are we not distributing the power? The budget provisions cannot allow me to distribute the power because I need $4 billion if I'm to deliver electricity. And two, it is very expensive to distribute electricity. I'm going to challenge the members of parliament. Wherever we pass electricity, the parliamentarians demand for electricity, but when we go to take electricity, the cost of clearing the land, the pubs, is extremely high. It is.
But honorable colleagues, let's not roast the minister here.
That's actually a chorus.
But honorable minister, you see, what is very clear is that we have given you money through loans, but they are not performing. So I think what we should do, we should focus on the performance of the loans we have given you, so that you reach out to very many people, you distribute them this power. If these loans performed well, I'm sure you would be having very many people to give power. So how can we help you on that, honorable minister? Let the rope add something, and we are here to support you, honorable minister. We want to move with you, but then you also listen to the concerns of the colleagues.
Mr. Speaker, sir, out of the 10.8 million households, only 2.3 million are connected to electricity, and that's the concern. So the question we are posing to you, if you connect all the 10.8, will you have excess supply? The answer obviously will be no. The answer will be no. And it's unfair for you, the minister, to come and blame us for not providing funding, yet I've cited for you, I think 3 electricity access scale performing very poorly, 2 transmission lines from Masaka to, I think, to Mbarara or somewhere there, 2 performing, industrial park, power to industrial parks. There is an industrial park in Lira, and people want power. There is no connection, and the loan is performing at 0%. So the question you should tell us is whether, if you execute all these loans to the dot, will you have excess power? Obviously, no.
It is actually wrong for Honorable Dur to allege that it's only less than 20% of the households who are connected to electricity. To our statistics, it is 60% of Ugandans are connected. Chair, I'll go to talk about this. What do you mean by electricity? Electricity is electrons flowing. 22% are connected to the grid, but 38% are connected to alternative electricity sources. Yes, we have mini grids which are solar based. We have rooftop. Those are all electricity connections. Let's not focus on grid connection. It is how many people use electricity. So it is 60%. No, I'm not. Let me continue answering the questions. But I'm talking about the percentage of the population. It cannot be 22. Now, number 2, electricity access scale-up project. While I appreciate your approval of the project, it actually we provided for counterpart funding, which is not provided. So we would wish to get this project moving, but the counterpart fund must be provided because it is in the agreement.
Really, it's not, Honourable Minister for Finance, is it true? Because it was not a lot of money. This is a World Banker project. very critical. Minister for Finance is here.
Right Honorable Speaker, every year we budget, and it is about the entity to prioritize, to choose what to use for the money we give them. If Ministry of Energy thinks counterpart funding is a priority out of the priorities they have, then they should be able to find money within their budget and provide for it.
Honourable Minister, Power Purchase Agreement.
A power purchase agreement for this one is not yet ready, because you cannot go into power purchase agreement when you don't have infrastructure. It is based on the approval of this loan that we can start discussing a power purchase agreement. 2, there is no country that we're exporting power to at less than 12 US cents. Kenya, for example, our provision of power to Kenya is 12 US cents per kilowatt hour. And there is no area in Uganda which we are supplying power at more than 10 US cents. Kalangal Island, it is because it is not on the grid. That's why we have that high tariffs. Anyone here is actually consuming power at about 7 US cents, and we have reached 5 US cents for large industries. So that is much lower than anywhere in the region. So we are the cheapest tariff, the lowest tariff in the region, because of most of our power is hydro based. The cost of producing that power is quite low, unlike other countries where they rely on thermal generation of power. Diesel generation is quite high, and that's what's happening in many of our countries. So the power purchase agreement, I can talk about the Kenyan one, but I cannot talk in anticipation of what we are going to do with the South Sudan. The performance of the various projects, electricity access scale-up is actually delayed implementation because of the World Bank clearances. But good news, we have reached now a procurement level where we expect the project to start performing. However, the PAF requirement, where I need counterpart fund, will continue counting negatively on us. The Mbarara line, this project is delayed because of the terms of the financial. There has been moving to and fro. It is financed by the French, and we had actually a problem in the procurement. The best evaluated was a Chinese company, but the financiers insist that we are going to get their a country which is favorable, a French company, and this one has taken a long time to overcome. The last one, the supply of electricity to the industries. That project is actually on course, including providing substations in the various industrial parks, like Mbale Industrial Park, the Soroti Industrial Park. The project is also on course to provide power to those industrial parks. Many industrial parks have actually been connected, but they don't have adequate power supply because we have got to build substations in those various industrial parks at the transmission lines. We have a project which we have actually specifically developed for delivering adequate and reliable power to the industrial parks, meaning extending transmission lines and then having substations in those industrial parks. The industrial parks are developing faster than the power supply that we have. So we have got to deliver the power through the transmission lines. I submit.